Welcome back to the Important Nonsense Podcast. 32 teams in 32 days. LA Charger edition. My personal hell. Neil Smith, Jason Draven, at Mike Burland. They are here to annoy me and ruin my evening as we sit here and break down all 32 teams in 32 days to get you prepped for your fantasy draft. I will be fighting a losing battle to keep this show on the rails, and will likely just go make a sandwich somewhere at about the 15-minute mark. Gentlemen, we'll do the PSAs in a moment, but I'd like to get your initial thoughts. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 100?
110. Every year, 110. And then by October, it's maybe down about 50%.
It's like 3 or 4 weeks in, and the injuries start stacking them. You're like, well, this is going to suck.
Yep.
At least we're really
now.
For those of you who are not blessed with the gift of sight, they are literally wearing their Chargers apparel to taunt me for this, and also just to make no illusions about what's going to happen here. Yes, I see you pointing. I'm not even going to acknowledge it. You can do you with your Gates jersey in the background there, and your, what is that, Ekeler?
Old Derwin James before he switched to just 3.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Material for all the fantasy analysis that we're supposed to be doing here today. This show, as always, based on 12-team redraft, aka God's format, PPR. I can't even get through the PSAs. I'm already rattled. All the rankings that you will hear are based on Fantasy Pros. We will obviously be referencing our own rankings. We will make sure we call that out as we do so. We are a Fantasy Pros affiliate. We are happy to be there. Thank you, Fantasy Pros. All the depth charts that you will be hearing us reference are courtesy of Player Profiler. Shout out to Jack Kavanaugh. Check out our website at importantnonsense.com. Register to be a member with us. Join our Discord. Keep Jason Draven company. Jason is lonely, and he needs people to talk to about all his Chargers hot takes, because if he keeps bringing them up to me, I'm going to literally kill him. And yes, I said that on a recorded forum, so if he mysteriously dies, you might want to check in on it, because it might have been me. I can't rule it out. It's only one state away. And if I have to hear about Donald Parham, it's going to happen. And I know we're going to get there at some point in this show.
You are.
I'm already so aggravated. Goodbye. We will reinstate him when he stops talking about Donald Parham. I'll kick you too. Don't you start with me.
3rd round pick, Trey McKitty. I mean, come on.
Where's the sandwich? You liar.
We can't even do this show properly. It's never going to go properly. Those are the general PSAs, folks. Follow all of our content on importantnonsense.com. Sign up. And be aware that today is the 9th of August. So if anything we say is a little bit dated, tune into the wrap-up show. It'll be a live stream on the 1st of September, where we will update any and all takes that need to be updated. As I already referenced, today is the LA Charger show, which I am subjected to do with 2 hardcore Charger fans. And we're going to start, as always, with quarterback. And since Jason is standing up to reveal his shirt, I will let him go first, and I will just politely,
I mean, the guy was hurt for majority of last year, got injured relatively early, missed a lot of it, and so his ADP is 43. He's quarterback 6. I mean, these are important kind of things to look at. That is a value kind of based on how this year's going, with how ridiculous everybody is as being at quarterback. I kind of like it. It makes me enjoy it. I'm pumped for him. The guy's just a clear leader. He's continually having great reports coming out of camp, which, is something you always have to buy into. That's a very sarcastic comment. But Mike, what do you think about Justin Herbert?
I mean, love the guy, highest paid quarterback in the NFL for at least for
contract. Now. That's right.
That's right. No, I mean, I love Justin Herbert, and you mentioned the injury, and on top of the injury, it was, I forget how many games that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams actually played together last year. I think it was less than 8. It was like maybe 6 or 7. So, he was throwing to, Josh Palmer and Gerald Everett were his top targets, Austin Ekeler. DeAndre Carter. Yeah. So, you assume these guys stay healthy. I love Justin Herbert. He's a guy that can be a top 5 quarterback with essentially his arm. He doesn't have to run too much to be a top 5 quarterback. We've seen it already
Doesn't mean he won't.
No, I do think he can win with running. There was a Sunday night football game against the Steelers where I think he had over 100 yards rushing. He kind of dominated that game with his legs. He can run. There's that in him, but he doesn't want to run. It's just maybe it's smart. You don't want to have a guy that you're paying $200 million to run the ball too often. But the problem is his ADP. Like, I'm generally out on taking him. What is that? The 4th round. But he is a guy that if he is slip and it's the 6th round, if it's late 6th round, early 7th, for whatever reason he slips, I'll be okay with kind of reaching for a quarterback higher than I normally take quarterbacks. But yeah, I don't know about taking him in the 4th round. Just a little bit too much of a risk for me. So
yeah. And so, sorry, I was counting. I was making sure it was 7 games with both Allen and Williams on the field. Yeah. It was week 1, 7, and then 13 through 17. So not great to be missing your 1-2 options, but it was impressive how the other guys did step up. And also on that same note, Jalen Guyton was out for all of us here because he blew his something.
Was there week 1 or 2 he blew it, right?
It was ACL super. Yeah, it was something major like that.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's brutal because he was supposed to be the field stretcher. That was supposed to be his role, and he wasn't there for it.
Yes, and we haven't even mentioned Kellen Moore and the impact that he could have. If you look at Dak Prescott's numbers, Dak Prescott was like a low 20s touchdown passer, 3,800-yard passer. Kellen Moore comes in, he jumps up to almost 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. A huge increase with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. And I really, really hope, we saw Joe Judge there and we wanted to see push the ball down the field. Justin Herbert has one of the best arms in the game. We want to see the ball being pushed down the field. And I think that's what they're going to do with Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, and I mean, like we've kind of touched on, where he's being taken, I don't love, because quarterbacks are just being so pumped up this year with how everybody's drafting them. It's going way too early, way too fast because they want that stable guy. Completely understand that, but it's so rich that I'm probably not going to end up with him anywhere. Being 43, which is like middle of the 3rd round. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Even with Kellen Moore, I love that as an option. And the addition, which we'll get to, but the addition of Quentin Johnston is going to be another big one. But hey, Neil, what do you think? Any the chips tasting delicious as always, but I just figured I'd ask you.
They're goldfish megabytes, and they're phenomenal.
Good choice.
You want my opinion? I think one of the biggest problems in this country is the ongoing drug addiction crisis. And just listening to that really just fuels my take on that. I made so many derisive hand gestures that are probably going to have to be edited out, but I really hope that they don't get caught by the censors, because I meant every single one of them. You're going to waste my time talking about Jalen Guyton? That was 7 minutes of just drivel. I'll sum it up for you. The one thing I will agree with you people on. I will agree with this. Justin Herbert is a good football player. His ADP is dumb. Justin Herbert right now goes...
But it makes sense. Based on how everybody else is doing it currently. Sure,
but he goes as the QB6, 48 overall is what that should translate to. He goes at 43 overall. The 4th round pick. That's way too high. He's in the camp of Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence, which is the inflation is out of control. The U.S. dollar isn't the only thing that's inflated right now. The quarterback market's dumb. This is stupid. There's no way that man could get into tier 1 of quarterback with his rushing floor. There's no chance that Justin Herbert is going to rush for 600 yards. I acknowledge. He's got a good arm. He runs to set up the pass. He's got a decent system. He's got a decent stable of weapons around him when they're all not hurt. I'm not going to waste my time talking about Jalen Guyton. The field stretcher.
Or Darius Davis.
Yeah, that's who we're going to get there, because that is definitely
bigger
another
waste
one we
of
have
my
to talk
time. The reality of it is this: is that Justin Herbert's value is being hugely inflated because of the giant, crazy run on quarterback. There's no reason to roster Justin Herbert at that point. Don't do it. It's too expensive. I don't even hate Justin Herbert. I hate the 7 minutes I was subjected to of having to listen to that. But at least I got a nice snack in. I hated that. That I hated. But Herbert himself, no, don't hate Herbert. He's going to be more than talented. He's more than talented enough to raise up everything around him, which is good. That's what you care about. And he's tough. I mean, I'll give you that too. We saw him basically break all of his ribs and try to continue to play the game. It didn't go well, but he did it. No, he couldn't throw at all. It was hysterical. He couldn't throw the ball 3 yards.
He could. I mean, you saw him throw a laser immediately after it happened.
And then I saw him like literally drop the ball out of his hand and crumple to the ground in pain the minute when he tried it a second time. But that being said, if I got all my ribs broken, I would have just gone and sat on the sideline. So,
yeah.
Well, actually, I would have gone to the hospital. Now that I think about that, I'd probably forget sitting on the sideline. I'd be in the ambulance on the way to the hospital asking for Flintstones chewable morphine, because I am a big kid. But
that's Toys R Us.
Hey, it's look, man. It's also Huggies. It's like 5 other brands that I could go into if you really want to do that. Like, we've already derailed this with 7 minutes of Justin Herbert nonsense. So what I'm saying,
real quick, sorry.
Go ahead.
Before we get into the next thing, so Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, both kind of going right around the same range. Is there one guy that you guys are leaning? Because it is real.
Fields, not close. Because Fields has the rushing floor. There's your answer.
Yeah.
From me.
Yeah.
Jason doesn't agree with that because Jason doesn't live on this planet.
I'll agree. I mean, I'll agree with that.
I'm referring to yesterday's show where he was talking about Justin Fields down at 10 and Dak Prescott at 20. So if you're going to go by Jason's quarterback rankings, like the world, I don't live in that world. I don't know where that world is. It's on some other planet. It's like the Star Trek Mirror universe.
To be fair, that is, I am just assuming that a lot of people are playing 6-point. Or have you made that differentiation between the two?
I never assume.
That's how I always.
I never assume people are playing 6-point because.
I always do because that's what I play with. So if that's the case, Justin Fields is QB 5. Does that make you feel better?
A bit.
Okay.
I'm still reeling from the idea that you're making the assumption that people play 6-point when every metric we have says that that's by far a small minority. But okay.
That's what I prefer. I mean, that's what the touchdowns are worth. They're 6 points.
I'm not debating whether or not it's a preference. No one's debating preferences. Anyway, I think the one thing we will all agree on: Herbert's current ADP makes no sense. It's going to be really hard to return value at that point. And with that, the other thing we'll all agree on: he's damn sure good enough to keep everybody that you might be actually interested in drafting at a realistic price point fed. Someone you might be relatively interested in drafting. Austin Ekeler. He's good at football.
Well, one other thing that we have to touch on. Chase McDaniel is gone. Or Chase Daniels is gone. Why did I do McDaniel? Golly, that's the last show. But Chase Daniels is now gone. It is now the backup is Easton Stick. So something else to kind of I'm just throwing it out there for general knowledge purposes because it is a note that he's no longer there, the journeyman that is Chase Daniels.
Okay.
So back to Ekeler.
Right.
Sorry.
Easton Stick is now the backup. Good. I'm glad we nailed that down. Is it because his last name is Stick? Is that why you wanted to throw that in there?
You know, you have to throw it in. It's if you're a dog, you have to take the stick. So I had to go with it. You know.
Oh, I was going to go with a different way when you said you have to throw it in. I was going to get the whole show banned immediately. I'm going just full filth. I already had to ban myself yesterday for my lovely off-color humor. Keep going with your thing. I gotta go back to my snack here in a second. So, but we will do We will do Austin Ekeler. Trust me. By the time we get to wide receiver, I will be back in this. I can already see where this is going. So we're going to nail down running back real quick because I think we can do it relatively efficiently. Austin Ekeler is good at football. He's proven this over the last few years. He's kind of come out from under the stigma of, Austin Ekeler can't play a full season because he's coming off back-to-back full seasons that he's played. He is
as a workhorse, yeah.
Well, yeah, but he is in reality probably the second best pass catching RB in the league behind only Christian McCaffrey. And it's not that far behind. He's the second for me, for pretty much everybody. He's the RB2. He's a first round pick. He's the RB2. Should be going about 6 overall. He's going to 4. If you wanted to take him at 1, I wouldn't even bat an eye at you. You want to take him at 2, I wouldn't bat an eye at you. I'd be like, sure, if that's what your preference is, go nuts. He's that good. He's going to catch all the dump offs. He gets goal line work. He gets to run between the tackles. He does everything, and his competition within the running back room is functionally non-existent. It's Josh Kelly.
Same guys it's been.
It's the same guys. It's Josh Kelly, who is literally just the backup. Isaiah Spiller, who they drafted last year, will back up Josh Kelly. And then Larry Roundtree, who's been there for a number of years, will be there to basically play out the last year of his contract. I believe this is the last year of Larry Roundtree's contract. Not that it matters. If something was to happen to Ekeler, this would devolve into a committee. It would be at least a 2-headed monster with Kelly and Spiller, possibly a three-headed giant with Roundtree in the mix. I think it would be more like a 2-headed thing with Kelly and Spiller. If I had to handcuff it, none of those guys have ADPs. None of them. If I had to pick one to handcuff it, it'd be Kelly, because we've seen Kelly do it in the past. He's earned the trust of the coaching staff, and they use Kelly anyway, even when Ekeler needs a break, and also to not get Ekeler killed. So in certain situations, they trust Kelly a little bit more because Kelly, while himself is not great, he is pretty good at thumping the ball up the middle and doing some of the dirty work in the trenches. He's not bad at that. He can't catch a lick. Never has been able to. Never will be able to. If they needed a pass catcher, I think it would be Spiller, because Spiller at least has the pedigree out of college. But there's no. Are you really going to go out of your way to handcuff Austin Ekeler to either of these guys? Do you really want to do it? Especially when they have no ADP and you could just pick them up off the waiver wire.
I mean, I would be picking up every Sunday probably, just in case.
Okay, I'm not doing that.
Or any game day, yeah.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to just hold them. So if you had to, are you interested in holding them? And if so, which one?
It's Kelly, but again, it's not something you love. And it's because I do think that he would actually see more of the field.
In Dynasty, my argument is you have to roster Kelly if you have Ekeler. But that's Dynasty. This is redraft.
Well, and I mean, even for next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have Ekeler in Dynasty League. I have Kelly and Spiller. Because I've covered all my bases. Because I'm not paying for that on the open market. That's Dynasty.
Yeah.
I'm talking about redraft.
Yeah, as of now, it is Kelly. You know, they did give him, I think the last 6 weeks of the season, he had about a 40% snap percentage. So they were trying to get him involved. It didn't translate to anything.
They were trying to also not have Ekeler die before the playoffs.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and I think that can play into it. So as of now, it's Kelly, but this is a situation. Just kind of watch during, again, it's August 9th, kind of watch during the preseason games. What do they do? Because Kelly was one of those guys. They drafted him 3rd or 4th round, kind of like with Isaiah Spiller. Kelly didn't do anything his rookie year. So it took him a year.
He did. It was really, really bad. It was actually funny. It was like comical how bad Kelly was his rookie year. Trust me, I remember. There were memes about it. It was the minute he would come into the game, people would start booing. He was so bad. Yeah. He was impossibly bad. I'm amazed at the turnaround his career has had.
Yeah, I mean, last year was his best year statistically.
Not close. That's the low. That bar is so low, it's a tripping hazard in hell.
I mean, the 69 carries, nice.
Yeah, okay.
For 287 yards for 4.2 yards.
Not a good average, by the way. 69 for 287, nice is not nice. Actually, it's pretty poor.
It is something that, like, it isn't clear cut. Kelly's the number 2, so keep an eye on it during the offseason or during the preseason, and it could be Isaiah Spiller. It could easily. I don't think it's going to be Larry Roundtree. It's going to be
No, I think the ship
Kelly
is sailed on
or
former
Spiller.
University of Missouri product Larry Roundtree. Well, I think we're
Yes.
good there. I think it's either Spiller or Kelly, and if something was to happen, I think they'd split the job.
Well,
Yeah,
and I think
most
Spiller's
likely.
also the punt returner at this point.
Yeah, probably. So there's no reason to handcuff it. There's a reason these guys don't have ADPs. Now I'm going back to my snack while you guys talk about wide receiver because I have a feeling we're going to have very different takes on this. So you guys have fun. I've got goldfish to eat. Goldfish, not a sponsor, just delicious.
Yeah,
They are
I mean,
very delicious.
it's hard not to enjoy them. Just like it's hard not to enjoy the beautiful beard and route running of Keenan Allen. I mean, currently wide receiver 15 at, ADP 45. Perfect. So, I mean, that seems about right for him. I think that's a little low, but that's just a personal Chargers fan thing. I mean, if he's actually healthy for all 17 games, it's that wide receiver 15 is an easy payback for me, but that ADP is definitely more difficult, but it depends on who you've taken already. It's like 4th round again. We're about that same spot, and it's hard not to like him. He is clearly the guy I think will see the most targets, and with all the quote unquote quotes that you get from the preseason and camp and all that good stuff, they are moving Allen all over the place and out of the slot, which I love. The fact that he's going to be all over the place makes me super excited for him. I also think that kind of shows the hand of who is probably going to be added in more with that in mind. And so ADP I like overall. It's fine. I wish it'd be lower, but it's hard to get that same value out of him every year. So, and I got to ask Mike, what do you think? It's hard not to love Allen. I'm outside of that, but
Definitely. I mean, the guy from 2017 to 2021, his lowest target year was 136, and he was over 150 2 of those years. So the guy just is a target hog. He even showed it last year. Yeah, he had the hamstring injury, kept him out, I think 7 weeks or so. Came back, and when he played, he was the wide receiver 3. So he's just consistently a top 12, top 13. I think the ADP is a little bit baked in where people don't feel the upside is there to be a top 5 guy maybe, but you're getting a top 12 guy almost guaranteed. This team's going to throw the ball at least top 5 most pass attempts in the league. I think they were 2nd or 3rd last year. I mean, what's not to love about Keenan Allen? I don't worry about his age at all. He is 31, a young 31. But he wins with his route running. He doesn't win with speed. He doesn't win with his power. He wins with the route running. That usually translates. I think Larry Fitzgerald led the league in catches when he was like 32 or 33 years old. I can see Keenan Allen doing the same thing, like you said, Kellen Moore, watching the CD Lamb tape, just moving him all over the field. I'm super excited. I think if healthy, you're locked in. 130, 140 targets. The guy's going to be, at worst, the top 15 PPR receiver, and with the upside of being, a top 7, 8 guy. With the off chance he does get maybe an uptick in touchdowns. He's not a big touchdown guy, but you can kind of pencil him in for 105, 110 catches, 1,000, 1,100 yards, 6, 7 touchdowns. I mean, there's not many guys you can pencil that in for. So I love Allen. In one of my slow drafts, I think I got him in the 4th round. And I'll take that happily, definitely take that. So I love Keenan Allen. Neil, what do you think about Keenan Allen?
he doesn't care.
I think drug addiction is a major problem in this country. The two of you are victims of the opioid epidemic, I think. I can't prove it, but I'm going to start. I've never drug tested anybody as part of this website before. I think I'm going to have to start because that was just.
You want all the Keenan Allen you can get. Don't lie.
If you want to go ahead and spend a 4th round pick on Keenan Allen, you do you. But I'm not doing that for a guy who's 31 that hasn't played a full season in forever.
He's played a full season. In 2021, he played a full season. 2019, he played a full season. 2018. So he missed 2 games from 2017 to 2021. He missed 2 games. That's
you factoring in games that you missed games. You factor in games he leaves early in, is sitting on the sideline, getting his hamstring looked at, talking to the coach. Oh, I pulled the hammy again, coach. Oh, I don't know. I can't go back out. Like,
let me ask you. Let's just say, okay, Keenan Allen plays 14, 15 games. Does he finish worse than why he's being drafted as wide receiver 15? He plays in 14, 15 games. Does he finish worse?
You're making this assumption that I think he's actually going to play that many games, which is
Well-
literally the problem with this whole thing. I am not convinced of this at all. Guys going around Keenan Allen. We're going to play this game this way, I think. Give me a moment. I'm going to pull it up. All right. Guys going around Keenan Allen. T. Higgins. Taking T. Higgins 10 times out of 10. It's not a debate. DK Metcalf. Taking DK Metcalf. Taking the Terminator.
rude.
Yeah. 100% doing that. Chris Olave. Getting closer. Getting closer. I'm taking Calvin Ridley. And I would probably have
taking Calvin Ridley.
Mm-hmm. So based on that, I probably have Allen somewhere closer to the 20s. That's probably where I would have him for the season, based on the idea largely that I'm just not convinced he's going to play the 15 games you're even trying to grandfather him in for. And I say grandfather very deliberately because the man is ancient. And
I mean,
within that, he's also being inflated by the idea that all of wide receivers inflated this year. So if you're telling me that I have to spend a 4th round pick on Keenan Allen, then I'm looking at running back, because it means that there's value somewhere here that I'm trying to mine out. So no, I will probably not roster much Keenan Allen. And here I will say this: I don't hate Keenan Allen. I've been a Keenan Allen apologist for a long time, but this feels like sticker price to me. What would need to happen for Keenan Allen to actually get to this top 5 that I heard you theoretically bandying about there a moment ago, that I rolled my eyes so hard at that I nearly gave myself a stroke? What? I felt like I was 15 again, listening to my parents, and my eyes just start rolling. What would need to happen for him to actually get to that top 5 that you're just so casually bandying about?
no, I mean, I don't think he can get. There have to be injuries for him to get to top 5. But what I did say is, from when he played from week 11 on, he was third wide receiver 3 in PPR. So, and he's finished top 5, I believe, in a couple of seasons. So
yes,
I don't know.
In 2016, like I was a lot younger in 2016. I was faster, fitter. Like it's. So I'm out on this for a 4th round pick. This is one of those ones that I'm looking at. This is like, it's similar to Devonta Smith, who's going right next to him in drafts, and I'm like, what is that about?
Oh, give me Keenan Allen over Devonta Smith.
Yeah, but it's just confusing to me. I have similar confusion around that, where it's like, what is this optimism that these people see that I just don't? Someone's going to have to educate me to it, because I'm not buying what they're selling here on the whole Keenan Allen or Devonta Smith thing. We'll do that on a different show. So no, I don't hate Keenan Allen. I understand why there people like it, because he wins on, you mentioned it. He wins on route running. He's got great hands. Herbert looks for him early and often. His other weapons also get hurt constantly. Your entire team gets hurt constantly. It's a side effect of it. The other guys that you guys are going to talk about in a moment here, I'm actually more freaked out by. But this whole thing, to me, except for Ekeler, all of it feels like projection inflation.
Well,
and we deal with this every year with the Chargers, because when they're all healthy and in camp and running around in their underwear, everybody's like, "Oh, look at how good the Chargers will be! Oh my God, look at that!" And then by the 3rd week, everybody's hurt, and it's like, and then we're back down talking about the Josh Palmers and Jalen Guytons of the world, which are all inferior products. So forgive me if I'm just incredibly jaded by all of this. So it's one of those things where I get the optimism, but there are other players that I like in that area more. And if I've got to spend a 4th round pick, there's probably a running back that I'm more interested in for around the same ADP that I think is being hugely undervalued than trying to hitch my wagon to the Keenan Allen star. To me, it feels like a reach and not one that I'm willing to take. So
I think,
for the record, you asked my opinion. Like,
Yeah, I know, 100%. I just think the injury prone thing is a little overrated. Again, he's missed 2 games, from 2018 to 2021. Yeah, he missed the 6-7 games last year. And from my count, it looks like he left about 2 games early since 2020. I just think the injury prone thing gets thrown around a lot, and I think it's a little overrated. Certain players, Rashad Penny, maybe the guy we're going to talk about next, and Mike Williams, you can say injury prone. I think it's a little overrated with Keenan Allen. So I
injury
don't think
prone
that
is
into
largely a myth. Edwin Porras, our injury consultant, will defend that with you and debate that with you all day long. He wrote a book about it, for God's sake. And that man's a medical doctor, so I'm not going to argue with him.
All right. More importantly, though, last year.
Is it more important? I don't
yes,
know.
It is.
That's probably debatable.
Because part of my issue is, okay, so we take out all the games that everybody's been hurt and just go by average points per week. Last year, 16.4, put him at wide receiver 12. The next closest, right below him, Jalen Waddle, 15.2.
Sure.
So,
and you're doing a lot of subtraction of people to get to that.
Well, no, because it's based on average. So that also includes Michael Thomas, who played 3 games last year.
Oh, wait, you're doing points per game? There's a name for that. You're talking about points per game.
But it's an average. I mean, even you're going by averages, so.
But you could do an average that doesn't include
the games
per
played.
Game thing. Like that's why I'm asking you to clarify.
Okay, so yes, it's technically points.
Because again, this argument is not happening just between me and you. There's a listening audience that might be confused by what you're doing.
But again, so 16.4, the next closest is 15.2, and right above him is Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 16.7 fantasy points per game in PPR. Hopkins, 16.9. Michael Thomas, 17. A.J. Brown, 17.6. Like, this is all, I mean, and that's, again, including the missed games. So you have him for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 games. So he's getting 16 points a game. If you have him for a full game. And that put him at 164 points last year.
If.
Correct. But we're
it's
we're
like
going with
5 ifs that need to happen. And then that.
If you're last thing I'll say.
And we'll move into Mike Williams afterwards.
Yeah, if you're thinking he's injury prone, I'm fine with you being a little lower on him. I don't really.
I never said the words injury prone. You are adding that.
He's not going to play. If you think he's going to miss,
not going to play
5,
16 games.
Yeah. If he plays a full season, there's no way in hell he finishes below wide receiver 15, in my opinion. So that's where I'm approaching this.
I wouldn't actually debate that with you. If you could guarantee me that Keenan Allen was going to play a full season, if you could guarantee that to me, yeah, he'd be in the top 15 pretty comfortably. But you can't. So the whole argument becomes a question of risk tolerance. And you could add the label injury prone if you want, although that's not actually my argument. But the whole thing with this is it's a competition thing on top of it when they're all out there and healthy, because that would be the other piece of the math that I would want to do, which is when they're all out there and healthy at the same time, how does the target proportion actually go?
Still Allen.
It rarely comes up because they're never out there at the same time. To within that point, we're going to agree to disagree here a little bit. You two are all in on Mike Williams as a fourth, or Mike. Now I'm doing it. Keenan Allen as a 4th round pick. Go nuts.
I mean, it's fine. Yeah.
I'm not going to go there with you because I think that all of this is inflated, to be perfectly honest, for a number of reasons. The Chargers and also wide receiver in general is being inflated. So I'm going to keep my 4th round pick in my pocket and probably help myself to a running back around that area. James Conner, Joe Mixon, things like that are widely available in the 4th round that I would rather deal with. Because if I've got my druthers, I've either gone all in on Austin Ekeler early on. That's the Charger I'm actually interested in. Or I've helped myself to one of the better wide receivers way near the top. And then by this point, I'm double tapping running back in the 3rd and 4th round. That's the way my teams have been coming together in the background to provide context to the listening audience. The 5 of them that are left that haven't turned off After hearing Mike and I bicker with each other about the merits of Keenan Allen. Go ahead, Jason. Talk about Mike Williams.
I'm not a fan of Mike Williams, so this is going to be hard for me to say. But they have him at wide receiver 33, ADP 64. Woof. I mean, I understand it because he is a good player, but at the same point, they've also brought in Quentin Johnston, who I think is more of a similar player style to Mike Williams. While man, that makes me so nervous for him. And they've got another guy who can't stay healthy. And he's just, when it comes to how he catches balls, he is a high point guy, which means he comes down awkwardly all the time. And that's how he gets hurt, which is why it makes me nervous to draft him every year. He is a great player when he is out there to play, but it makes me nervous to see him play like that because he's just so reckless with his body. He does not care. He is going to get that ball for you. But I can't buy into it at that ADP, at his ranking. I mean, it's not for me, and it's mostly, I guess, because I just love Keenan Allen too much. So
I appreciate that level of self-awareness. I genuinely do, actually. I've never been a Mike Williams fan either. This ADP scares the living crap out of me. You're talking about a 5th round pick. It's not even a question of like, will they throw Mike Williams the ball? Well, they'll throw Mike Williams the ball when he's out there. That's not debatable. He'll get the targets. I'm not worried about that. It's that his knees are made of glass.
and his ankles. Yeah.
And his ankles. And to your point,
Lower
Jason,
body.
To your point, Jason, he's a very violent football player, and that comes with consequences. Like, look at Damian Harris. The first time I saw Damian Harris play, I'm like, that dude is going to be really good in the NFL briefly. Like, that's going to be how that ends. Like, he's going to break himself trying to run like that. And that's kind of where I'm at with Mike Williams. Is it's kind of the same movie where it's just like, all right, he's out there, he's looking good, something happens. Comes back, looking good, something happens. And it scares me because I would live in fear of it. And I know that injury prone is technically a myth because Edwin Porras, like I said, he's proven this statistically. It's not actually a real thing, but there are certain outliers still that you can't quite shake it. And this is the one for me where I'll put it to you this way. I don't even want to put up, I wouldn't want to put up a 4th round pick for Keenan Allen. I'd be much more likely to put up a 4th round pick for Keenan Allen than a 5th round pick for Mike Williams. Much more likely to do that. I'd be more interested, actually, weirdly, in the guy that's next and then the guy after that.
Okay, there you go. I'm excited. We'll get to that though. Go for it, Mike.
Real quick with Mike Williams, I tend to agree with you guys. He is a little bit more like roster construction. How are you constructing your roster type of guy? Like if he's your wide receiver 3, I can buy into it a little bit more than if he's your wide receiver 2. Yeah.
Sure.
And I will say, if they do move to pushing the ball down the field more, that plays into Mike Williams. Like I actually went back and looked at when Justin Herbert, was throwing the ball down the field, had an ADOT of 8.5 or more, which is weirdly only 10 times in his 3-year career, which you think it would be higher with Herbert. But Mike Williams does tend to hit in those games, and so that plays into his skill set. You know, he's not a yards after catch guy. He's not a Keenan Allen guy. He is push the ball down the field. He can get down the field for you. So if they do switch to that offense more, it makes me a little more optimistic about Mike Williams, but there's definitely a lot of risk there. So I tend to agree with you guys. If he's my wide receiver 2, I'm terrified. If he's my wide receiver 3 or even 4, flex spot. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm a lot happier with that.
I don't want to be counting on it.
You're shooting for the moon for him. I mean, he could put up 20-point game for you.
I don't want to be counting on it week to week. It's very similar to rostering Tyler Lockett. It's historical Tyler Lockett, maybe not current Tyler Lockett, but like historical Tyler Lockett is the same argument. It's like he could win you any given week. He could also lose you the week when he puts up a 0. So it's like it's just that kind of deal. I'm more interested to get your guys' thoughts on Quentin Johnston. This is where I thought we would spend a lot more time than bickering about Keenan Allen.
No, I mean I love the talent, but again, at that ADP, I'm probably not getting him.
Well, tell him what the ADP is, Jason.
He's currently yeah. Well, he's currently wide receiver 47, and ADP is 107, which is pretty high for me. I mean, based on I get it, new OC, gonna throw more. I understand that. It's just so risky for me, especially being a rookie. Don't love that. But they drafted him in the first round. Not who I wanted. Been over this a couple times. Not who I wanted. Not who I thought we were going to get. But he is a talent.
Jordan Addison. For those of you, I won't.
No. That's Mike.
Oh, that was
I
Mike.
wanted Zay Flowers. No, I wanted Zay Flowers.
Oh, I also wanted Zay Flowers.
Oh, I see.
You wanted Jordan Addison. Zay Flowers was the guy that I wanted because
I just like Jordan Addison generally. Well, I don't really care. Yeah.
But when it comes to people they were replacing, I feel like they like Williams too much already. They've decided
they certainly paid him like they like him.
Correct. And so with Allen, again, being older, I figured he'd be the first one to replace. And Zay Flowers, I think, would have fit into that role so much better at this point and get to learn from Keenan Allen, which stack on stack, love that. But didn't happen. We got Quentin Johnston. Still an awesome talent, just not who I wanted, and is clearly more, in my mind, of a Mike Williams kind of player with how he plays and high point and all that. So I understand that portion, since we kind of saw what we got last year with Josh Palmer, who's the next guy, and how he can probably easily fit into that Keenan Allen role as well. So I don't love the ADP. That makes me nervous. And where he's being drafted and how he's ranked, it's so for me. So
yeah, I generally agree with that. Like the ADP is slightly too high. I wish it was 1 or 2 rounds later. I do see a path for Quentin Johnston to, even if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen somehow stay healthy for a full season, which is, we talked about it, kind of a miracle. I think there's a path for him. Again, we expect Herbert. He's thrown for 5,000 yards before. He threw for like 4,800 last year. We can see him easily throwing for 5,000 yards. So there's a place for a third player in here to kind of produce. But the ADP of being a 9th round pick is a little too high for me. Again, if he was 10th, 11th round, I'll take the shot on him, because to me, if those guys stay healthy, he's going to kind of have to produce in the red zone, be a touchdown guy, 8-9 touchdown guy. And that could be true. They don't have, Keenan Allen's not really a touchdown guy. Mike Williams really hasn't been in his career. That's why Austin Ekeler's had almost 40 touchdowns over the last 2 years. So I can see him having the path to being relevant, even if those guys stay healthy. But more than likely, you need an injury to one of those guys. And I don't want to bank on that with my 9th round pick, to be honest. So 1 or 2 rounds later, I'm in 9th round pick, which is where he's going. I'm kind of out on him.
So at this point, we go to the person that is the best value because he doesn't have an ADP and nobody cares about him, and it's Josh Palmer. I mean, I think he has separated himself. He showed that he needs to be on the field. They have been running him already out with the 3 wide receiver set as that 3rd wide receiver, and I think that is going to take Johnston some time to get that under control. I could very easily see him being actually taking away from the tight end when it comes to touchdowns, and from Austin Ekeler as well, because he does have that talent and could be that kind of red zone target that we're looking for. But I'd much rather go with the guy who's not being drafted and just last round. Sure, I'll throw him on my bench because I love Josh Palmer. So when it comes to talent, and how much I saw of him last year, I was super impressed. He overcame a lot of adversity being his first year and just kind of getting thrown into having to start almost immediately, and has got the trust of Herbert already. And it's hard not to believe in a guy who, like I said, is free for you. So that value, I will be taking it all day.
Yeah, I generally agree. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Josh Palmer is the wide receiver on this team, wide receiver 3 on this team over Quentin Johnston, who maybe takes a little time to learn the ropes. So agree. I don't think he was kind of forced into like being the main guy last year. And I think people were a little disappointed that he didn't produce when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams is out. I don't think that's where you want Josh Palmer to be.
I don't
you want
think
him
that's
to
fair.
Be. Yeah, it's not.
That's
You
not
want him to be
really
your
fair.
wide receiver 2 at best. Ultimately, like, As your wide receiver 4, I love it. As your wide receiver 3, I love it. When you force him into the wide receiver 1 role, that's not where he's going to win.
With what is my wide receiver 2 becomes the other part of that conversation. So
Mhm.
you're talking about my other player that was out there with him is Jalen Guyton, who I'm on record as saying I think sucks. So to me, that's not much. We actually
and he
agree on
actually had DeAndre Carter with him last year, who
also
was
sucks.
not on the team anymore.
Yeah, that's how much they believed in that. The Raiders paid him $1.50 and a ham sandwich and to go be their 5th or 6th wide receiver, as we covered yesterday, and that was the end of that. And he's buried on the job. He can't even beat out Hunter Renfrow, who they want to cut. That's what DeAndre Carter is. He's a guy. He's a body. Josh Palmer's a little better than that. Saw a lot of him at Tennessee. SEC pedigree for what it's worth. Got tossed into a crappy situation with all the injuries last year. And I thought performed admirably until it finally became too big for him. We actually agree on something. I can't believe it. I think Quentin Johnston is being way overdrafted for what that is. I'm not spending a 9th round pick on Quentin Johnston. You're out of your mind. Like, I've been sitting here doing this whole podcast saying that I think everything except Ekeler is overvalued and inflated. The 9th round pick of Quentin Johnston really, I think, proves my point. Where it's like that's what the 3rd wide receiver on the Chargers is. First of all,
It's Josh
the
Palmer,
3rd wide receiver on the Chargers is the 4th or 5th target option at any given point on a team that I will acknowledge is top 5 in the league in pass attempts pretty regularly. No one's going to debate that on a team that's actually pretty good when they're healthy. The issue here is that what does that really translate to for Quentin Johnston? I mean, for me to justify a 9th round pick, you're absolutely talking about an injury would need to happen. And then with Josh Palmer, there ain't no way he's cutting. Jason, he ain't cutting into Austin Eckler's role. What are you smoking? He ain't never cutting into that, even in the that ain't never happening. Palmer, what I think is attractive about Palmer is that because he has no ADP, if and or when something was to happen to either Williams or Allen, as long as they both don't get hurt, we've seen what Palmer can do. He can kind of step in, and with another year under his belt, that would be pretty attractive. Put it to you this way. If Keenan Allen got hurt and you spent your 4th round pick on Keenan Allen, what percentage of your fab budget would you be out there blowing on Josh Palmer? Because I think it's like 70%. That's what that would translate to. So
I mean, last year he had 72 receptions, 769 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Not bad.
Doesn't suck.
What if we spend all that time talking about Jacoby Myers for 800 yards? He was that's like wide receiver 40, whatever. You know what I mean? So if that repeats itself, Josh Palmer is worth a long, hard look at the end of your draft. He is actually, aside from Austin Ekeler, he is the Charger that I would be most likely to roster. We did it. We found one that I want to roster. But yeah, everybody else is, I think, being way over inflated at this point. Not that they're bad. It's not even that they're bad. I don't want to make that that's not my argument, is that they're bad players. I'm concerned that history doesn't repeat itself. And then also I'm concerned that maybe there is a little bit of inflation going on with some of these projections around here, because they're typically a pretty polished offense and it's a playoff team type of deal. But so no, for me, for the whole, not to bury the lead, because I'm going to literally leave if you guys start talking about tight end, because this has already been going on for 50 minutes. I'm interested in Ekeler. I'm interested in Palmer. The rest of it, I'm going to let my fellow people I'm drafting against, my Chargers fans, have it, because they're all, look how excited they are. Look at their little faces. They've been so excited to do this show, and that's why I've sat here and derisively eaten chips, which I'm out of chips. It's actually my biggest disappointment is that I ate all my chips. Unless you guys want to talk about Jalen Guyton, because if you really do, go ahead. But
well, the other name to bring up is Darius Davis. I don't think it's Jalen Guyton. I actually think it's Darius Davis. So he's faster. He's the new guy. I actually think he is a player that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually ends up being our field stretcher, because, as we brought up, Jalen Guyton was injured last year, and for all of it. I should have looked up what he was injured with, but with that in mind,
I think it was an ACL.
I thought so. Yeah. Okay. It was an ACL. So with that in mind, I mean, Darius Davis is the guy to know, because We really need that on our team. And he runs super fast. 4.36. Very quick. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Jalen Guyton can't do that.
Yeah.
So
No, definitely not.
we'll move into tight end because Neil wants us to wrap up, and it's fair. Gerald Everett, who was a darling for the waiver wire, and pretty much anybody who got him last year, really worked out for you because he shocked everybody. I mean, I was upset about it, but what else is new when it comes to the tight end that isn't this man right here for the Chargers in Antonio Gates? Ended last year as tight end 13, gave you some really good weeks, pretty consistent every week because of the fact that, of everybody that was there, he had the most experience for catching targets outside of Allen and Williams. So it worked out for him. Right now, he is going as tight end 16, ADP 156, which is usually where tight ends go. So that makes sense. Probably not who I'm putting my flag on, but everybody also knows that I prefer Donald Parham because can't help but love that name.
Yeah.
But
no, definitely. Yeah. Gerald Everett is one of those guys, like, it's almost like a situation with like the Bengals and their tight end situation where it's just like, because of who is on the team ahead of them, at best, he's the fourth target on this team. And so, yeah, I mean, at the end of the year, you look at it, it's like, oh, Gerald Everett was the tight end 13 or something, but it wasn't moving the needle. He's a guy I'm okay with, like, taking a couple tight ends late in the draft and having those guys just kind of start for you throughout the year. He can have kind of big games. We saw a couple big games from him, which I think he does have in his skill set, which is, if you tell me, do you want a tight end who gives you 7 points every week, or do you want a tight end who gives you 4 or 5 weeks where they give you 13 points and then the other weeks maybe they bust? I'll probably take the higher end of that, where they're kind of giving you the those big weeks. But
Everett gave you 6 of them last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the playoffs, like, he had over 100 yards and a touchdown in the playoffs against the Jaguars last year. So he has that in him. So he's a solid, just like, throw a dart, 13th round or wherever he's going. Take a couple guys and you kind of switch between the two of them every week, depending on matchups. But just don't expect him to be, unless there's injuries, he's not going to be the top 2, probably not going to be the top 3. He's going to be at best the fourth best option on this team. So that's where I'm at with Gerald Everett.
Yeah, and I mean, that sounds about right. But again, the backup I think is Parham. And after that, the guy who seems to be blocking more is McKitty. They like to use him in that kind of role, which is fine. I mean,
yeah,
they wasted a pick on him, for my opinion, but has let down everybody who has seen him play. Just not the guy that you're really excited to watch.
Yeah, agreed. Parham, I was excited about there for a bit, but then
that injury, man, the injury and the concussion, that was tough to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So, but beyond that, not much. It's Gerald Everett and really no one else as of now, unless there's an injury. So, it looks like Neil got some more goldfish there.
So, all right, Neil, we'll welcome you back, and you can wrap us up, get us out of here, because I guess Mike, what is your takeaway? And then I'll invite Neil back to tell us what his takeaway is.
Oh, you'll invite me back? Keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!